Welcome back, everybody. So, today I'd like to discuss an interesting topic. Is it worthwhile upgrading your older iPad Pro to the new current one, which came out this year? So, as you can see here, I have two iPads. One of them, this one, it's iPad Pro 10.5 inch, which I bought about 3 years ago. And this one is the latest one, 11-inch iPad Pro, which arrived a couple of months ago. So in this video I thought I'll discuss the reasons why or why shouldn't you upgrade, and also the reasons why I've bought a second one, and we'll also look at which one I actually going to be using moving forward for my everyday life. I use it a little bit for work. I travel a lot, so there's a few requirements that I need while traveling, and I'll also talk about that one in a nutshell. But in a nutshell, so here's the two iPads. They look very similar. If you look at the differences, the ones which is really stand out is the button. The older one still has this button, and this one obviously doesn't. And this one, being 0.5 inch wider, it also has a bigger screen because it doesn't have the two lines here, one for button, one for camera, and the camera seems to be a bit smaller. So first, before we get into the actual usability and how it feels for everyday user, and if it's actually worthwhile changing it for your everyday usage, let's look at the technical requirements of the iPads, and let's see how they stack up on the technical side. So here, as you can see, I've got the Apple website opened up, and I have both iPads selected for comparison. So obviously the new one is still available for sale, and the other one is you can't buy directly from Apple anymore. So looking at the summary, obviously the new one has a slightly wider screen, so it's 11-inch versus 10.5. The new one has a faster processor, so I think it's 8 cores versus 6 or 4 cores in the previous one. Compatibility, so the keyboard compatibility is slightly different because the new one is obviously compatible with the new keyboards and the old one doesn't. Again, the same thing with pencils. The new one is compatible with Apple Pencil 2nd generation, and the older one with Apple Pencil 1st generation. Storage, the new ones go up to 1 terabyte, while the old ones is 512. We're not going to go through all of it, but just through the key features. The cameras, both of them are 12 megapixel. This one has the older one has a single camera. The new one has a slightly bigger 2 or 3 cameras here. And the one big difference is that I'll talk about more in details is the connector. So the old one has a lightning connector, as all the other Apple devices, and the new one has a USB-C connector, right? So the capacity is slightly lower on the older one, and again it depends on price as well, which one you're going for. Both come as Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi plus cellular settings. So size and weight. So as you can see, the older one has a slightly bigger size, but the screen size, my understanding in the newer one, is bigger because obviously of those two lines. But the new one is slightly heavier. So I guess it's probably because of the slightly different display and bigger processor and maybe bigger hard drive. On the display side, one is liquid retina display, the other one is retina display. The rest is relatively the same. So obviously the chip, we talked about it. The new one has a more powerful chip. Battery life, it's about the same across both. Apple Pencil, so if you use a pencil you will need to buy a new one. um, same as keyboard. Camera, very much similar cameras. I'm always been, kind of skeptical about the cameras on iPads or any tab device, because how often do you actually use the camera? I mean, in my life, having, iPad now for many, many years, and, using the latest one for the last 3 years, and then going to a new one, to be honest, I don't think I've used the camera even once. So, don't think. Same as video recording, same as, front camera you do use occasionally, obviously, for video calls, etc. So, but looking, at the cameras, they're very much the same, 7 megapixel, both of them, and, the new one has few more options. Now onto audio, both have 4 speakers. The big difference is the older one comes with a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, the new one doesn't. So that's a bit of a disappointment. And now onto the rest. Apple Pay, cellular wireless, just about the same. SIM card, connector again. The new one comes as a USB-C, the old one Lightning, and I'll talk about it a bit more. And sensors, so the new one has actually the LiDAR scanner. It's quite questionable as to what you can use it for. I've seen some demos where people scan their rooms and turning into 3D images, etc. But it's still, I think, the software is still not there, and the apps are still not there to get the full functionality out of that scanner. And the rest is about the same. So that's on the technical part. So if we were to summarize it, what is actually the difference? So the new one has a better camera. It has a faster processor, and it has a slightly bigger screen. What does it mean for you as a consumer? And in reality, not much. To be honest, you won't feel or see the difference between the processor speed unless you're doing something, heavy on the graphics, or you're doing video processing or some sort of 3D graphics, which is more for professionals, right? From a perspective of everyday user like myself, there's really no difference. So let's get into the basics. We'll start by, why did I actually buy the second one? Well, with the lockdown and everything, I don't travel much, so I'm at home, and I've noticed my son started using my iPad more and more often for his schoolwork, right? And it seems to be the preference of the school to use iPad. So, instead of sharing the iPad, I just thought to myself, I'll just go out and buy a new one, and I'll take the new one for myself, and I'll give my old one to my son. He's 5 years old. Should be enough for him to do his schoolwork. And I did, so I went out and I bought the second one. And I've been using the new iPad for about 3 months, and I can't say that, I can justify, if I didn't have to buy a second iPad, I can't say I would justify actually spending $1,000+ on buying it and upgrading my 3-year-old iPad. Because in reality, there's not much difference. Performance-wise, if we'll do the scrolling, running the apps, we can, let's see which app, let's say books, continue. It's relatively the same. Push the button too long. Let's see if we can do App Store. So, it comes up, it's responsive. you know, it all depends really on your internet speed and everything. So in reality, the speed wise and the, you know, scrolling performance, you know, feel how it feels, it's about the same. I can't see on my everyday usage I see any difference. What I do see the differences, right, is the usability and things I need to change to use the iPad, right? So obviously, you know, the new iPad, I have a pencil here, right? So that's a second generation pencil, and this is the old one, right? So the pencils are about the same. The usage of the pencils, right, the way you hold it and everything, it feels relatively same. So there's not much difference. What I am a bit disappointed that I couldn't reuse the pencil, right? So I had to buy a second one. So that's additional, you know, 150 to $100 that I had to spend. And this one is obviously, the new one is wirelessly charged, so you just need to put it up and, you know, it pops up and says pencil charging. This one you unplug and you just plug it into the lightning port and it charges, or you have a converter cable where you can just put it into any USB device and charge it. So pencils, additional accessories, additional money, right? Another thing is obviously this one comes with the 3.1 inch jack for the headset. This one doesn't, so this one only, you know, my understanding, works with wireless headsets, right? I also use standard iPhone headphones, which I can plug into the lightning port and they work. Here again, with having a USB-C, can't do that. So you can't reuse your old pencil, you can't reuse your old headsets, you need to buy new ones. And another which is relatively disappointing, the chargers. Obviously, you know, I have my iPhone, which is also with a lightning port. So all my chargers around the house and when I'm traveling, I have a lightning cable. So now, additionally, to use this one, I have to carry a USB-C cable, right? But what really kind of disappointed me is iPad obviously came with this, right? So it came with a USB-C charging cable and an adapter. But what's disappointing is that the both sides are USB-C, right? So I can't really use this cable without that adapter, right? And when traveling, that's extra space and, you know, extra weight. Additionally, you know, obviously I travel with the converter, something like this, and it all has USB ports. So this cable again is unusable, which means I have to buy another cable. And buying another cable, it's additional cost, right? So by moving to a new iPad, you're not just buying the iPad itself, you actually have to change all the accessories, right? And it does add on some cost. Otherwise, you know, from a usability wise, from feature wise, I would say I don't see any difference. I used this one now for 3 months, I used this one for about 3 years, and to be honest, there's no difference, right? And if we look at the, you know, the form factor when you're traveling, the size and obviously matters, right? They about the same size, right? Obviously the cameras are different, so that's something to note, but everything else, weight wise and everything, yep, they just about the same. So what is the verdict? And the verdict is, you know, moving forward, I will keep using my old iPad. I don't think I will change. I just purely for traveling purposes, etc. I have to carry less stuff with me. I have to, you know, carry less chargers, and you know, and it does the job performance-wise and everything. And I'll give this one, obviously the new one, to my son and let him use it for school. So, in a nutshell, should you change it? If you everyday user, you know, using it for work, browsing internet, watching occasional movie or playing occasional game, I don't see any reasons of changing it. If you are, you know, heavily into processing of videos, probably graphics editing, 3D, etc., then yes, this one will do the job better due to better processor. Otherwise, there is no reason spending, you know, a couple of grand on just having a latest toy. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it educational, and if you did, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.